What was supposed to be the celebration of a legend's retirement from the game turned out to be one of the most controversial pieces of cricketing history.
With one wicket in hand, the English side needed 18 runs of 7 overs. Something that should have been tricky, but the batters were quite settled. Charlie Dean batting on 46 and Freya Davis batting on 10 after facing 27 deliveries. It almost seemed like the English batters will cruise through and win the third ODI. And this is where Deepti Sharma comes into bowl in the 44th over. Charlie Dean takes a single off the first ball and Freya Davis on the second ball of the over hits it straight to the fielder. And this is where things start to unfold because Deepti Sharma comes into bowl and without the ball being delivered, there is a moment of celebration from the Indian side. Deepti Sharma had made Charlie Dean run out at the non-striker's end, and this is where the Lord's Stadium was met with silence. After realizing what Deepti Sharma has done and the fact that the Indian team were actually appealing for the wicket, the silence was then followed with a lot of boos. After which the umpires got together and it was deemed to be out because this is a very legitimate form of dismissal, which led to India winning the third ODI by 16 runs.
What should have been a great day in Indian history, as this was the first time that the Indian woman had whitewashed the English woman in an ODI series in England, instead became something else altogether. But before we get into all of this and how the events unfold, definitely hit that subscribe button. The year was 2022 and India had a disappointing ODI World Cup, but after that is where things started to look upwards for this team. They had whitewashed Sri Lanka and Sri Lanka winning that ODI series 3-0 before leading up to the series in England versus England. This was to be a 3-match ODI series, and above all of that, there was a lot of hype for the series because this was where Jhulan Goswami had finally decided to announce her farewell and her retirement. It was almost poetic that this was to be Jhulan Goswami's last series, as this was the English side that she debuted against 20 years back in 2002. Her cricketing career had come a full circle, and this was to be that final series with the girls also high on confidence, looking to dominate England in England. Add to that, England was also a tough venue for India to be touring, as in the last 10 ODIs that they had played in England, they'd only won 2 of these. And so there was that extra motivation with Jhulan's retirement as well as India's track record in the previous past for them to come here and do well.
Let's start off with the first ODI where India won the toss and elected to field first, and this was the right decision because they were able to restrict the English side for just 227. The Indian used 7 bowling options where, except for Pooja Vastrakar, everyone contributed with a wicket. In fact, Jhulan Goswami bowled 10 overs, giving away just 20 runs. She was the only bowler in the entire match to have an economy of just 2. She also picked up 1 wicket with a famous nip backer, getting Tammy Beaumont out LBW. With the bat, we were simply outstanding because we went on to win the match by 7 wickets. We chased 232 in just 44.2 overs. With Smriti Mandhana scoring a fantastic 91 and Yashtika Bhatia and Harmanpreet Kaur both contributing with half century, while Harmanpreet Kaur stayed not out at 74.
The ideal start to the series with India going 1 up, moving to the second ODI in Canterbury. And this was a great opportunity for this Indian team to build on the victory that they opened the series with and to take the series away from England. And that's exactly what they did, and also in some style. India came out to bat scoring 333 in their 50 overs. This is that very match where Harmanpreet Kaur scored her famous 143 not out, batting almost through the entirety of the innings and stitching useful partnerships before exploding in the end. Of course, we've also done a video on Harmanpreet Kaur's batting, so you can check that out. But here was an incredible partnership that Harmanpreet stitched along with Harleen Deol. The two of them added 113 runs in about 20 overs before Harleen was dismissed, and from there, in the 40th over, Harmanpreet decided to just take off with the game. For the last 10 overs of the Indian innings, Harmanpreet Kaur batted at a strike rate consistently of about 200, and that's also the reason why she scored that 143 and India getting to 333. No small total by any means. And at this point, halfway through that match, England would have been kicking themselves because they had won the toss and elected to field. It had not panned out for them in the way they imagined, and now it was important for them to put that behind and come out and at least try and chase this target. But it seemed like the stars weren't aligned in England's favour, as the start of their innings was terrible. It started with the run out of Tammy Beaumont, and that further added to England's woes and their loss of confidence. From there, Renuka Singh Thakur came in with a blistering spell, getting 2 wickets up front within the first 10 overs. And after those initial 3 blows, it was never going to be possible for that England team to recover, irrespective of how many batters they had in form during that period. Renuka Singh Thakur eventually ended with figures of 4 for 57 in her 10 overs, getting 2 wickets up front and 2 wickets in the middle to break the backbone of the English side. England were dismissed for 245, incidentally once again in 44.2 overs, the same that India took in that first ODI to chase down the total. India had created history. This was the Indian team's first victory in a series in England since 1999. It was the first time in 23 years that India had come to England and dominated them in a series in the ODI format. It was also fitting that this was Jhulan Goswami's farewell series and an icing on the cake that they were able to assume an unassailable lead.
This is where we come to the third ODI, where England had won the toss once again and elected to field first. Even though India had already won the series, they had never whitewashed England in England. So the English team would have been a lot more motivated to save face and win that third ODI. And the stage set for the third ODI couldn't be better because this was at Lords and the Indian batters scored 29 runs for 4 wickets. They were already under pressure and it almost seemed like England were halfway through to win the game already. And this is where Deepti Sharma walked into bat. Of course, apart from her, Smriti Mandhana did score a 50, but India was still under pressure. But for Deepti Sharma to score those 68 runs, staying not out, making sure she's batting with the tail, forming the smallest of partnerships and taking India to 169 was very crucial, and that's exactly what she did. She not only soaked in all the pressure in the world by facing 106 deliveries, but she also scored 7 boundaries in this innings. This innings was a peek into all the abilities and talents that she has, something we have also made a video on, so if you haven't checked that out, go check that out. Not only as a bowler that we all know, but also as a batter. Now a target of 170 could either go both ways. Either the England batters cruise through or the Indian bowlers make it very, very difficult, and that's exactly what they did. England was 65 for 7 with Renuka Singh taking 4 wickets, wherein she took 3 wickets in 3 consecutive overs. From 65 for 7, they were 118 for 9, and the 9th wicket was taken by Jhulan Goswami in a 10,001st delivery. In this match, she bowled 10 overs, gave away just 30 runs and picked up 2 wickets in a farewell game. What was a very nice gesture is the fact that because it was the last game, when she walked into bat in the first innings, the English players gave her a guard of honor, and the same thing happened when she walked into bowl, where the Indian players gave her a guard of honor. It seemed like the perfect fairy tale ending because once Jhulan Goswami did finish her spell, not only did she pick up wickets, not only did she contain runs, but it almost seemed like India were on route to win yet another match. And also whitewash England in the series for the first time in England. And this is why we come back to what we started with. With 1 wicket in hand and 18 runs to get, Deepti Sharma gets Charlie Dean run out in the non-striker's end.
What possibly in any other cricket match would have just been a bit of a controversy and then ended and everything forgotten about was definitely a big deal in this particular match. For starters, it was England that was facing off against India with the series already finished, but England staring down at a whitewash. That run out at the non-striker's end ensured that England were left stranded, all out, and having lost the series 3-0, and that too at the home of cricket in Lords. And of course, as is known with English media, they made a whole situation out of this scenario. There were a lot of headlines and conversations raised on the supposed spirit of the game, despite the fact that this is a legitimate dismissal. One set of arguments that came from a lot of cricket pundits was that there should have been a warning that Deepti Sharma should have given to Charlie Dean. However, this is not something that has been specified in any cricketing rule book, and so it would have not made any kind of sense whatsoever. And even if you leave all of that aside, the simple fact that Charlie Dean was already doing all of this, she was already consistently stepping out of a crease at the non-striker's end, should have been signal enough for the Indians to have gone ahead and done that and everything to have still been okay. And this is where we misread the spirit of the game, right? As long as things are within the laws of the game, they are perfectly legitimate. It's very interesting that how whenever a team is under some kind of distress or situation, or whenever it fits their narrative, is when they decide what or what isn't in the spirit of the game. And ultimately, England were also butthurt because of the fact that at that point, it looked like England would have had the game. With just 17 runs left to win and the bowlers struggling to dismiss that final partnership, it looked certain that England might have gone ahead and won that match and possibly saved their face. However, this was not meant to be, with India winning that match and whitewashing England 3-0. And from the perspective of an Indian cricket fan, this would have been the most fitting farewell for a Jhulan Goswami, a player who had given her services to the Indian team for 20 long years, and for her to be able to create history with this team by whitewashing England in England would have been the perfect icing on the cake. However, the British media blew all of this out of proportion, and instead of focusing on what would have been a great story for Jhulan Goswami's farewell, decided to nitpick on the one reason the non-strikers end run out and focus on it and play spoil sport.
And hopefully in the next couple of weeks, the Indian team can repeat the same against England in not only the T20 series, but also the ODI series that's coming up. Now, this has been our video on India's historic win in England against England 3 years ago. If you've enjoyed this video, like, share and subscribe, all that good stuff. All of our links are in the description below. We're hosting a community event on the 6th of July in Bangalore from 11 am to 2 pm, which is a Sunday. For more details and to register, go down to our pinned comment below or even a description where the links will be given. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.